Hello, everybody, and thank you for giving us a little bit of your time this week. My name is Tony Peterson, and I'm the Director of VAR Sales here at NextTrust BillFlash. Today, we're taking a little bit of time to talk you through, as part of our BillFlash education series, how you can send charges and get paid for telehealth visits with a specific emphasis on the patient side of that equation. So I want to make sure that before we get too far into the webinar that you understand that we are talking about the patient billing process. We are working through content and figuring out how we can present effectively on the insurance side of things, but that will not be covered as heavily during today's call. So if you were coming and looking for modifier information, things like that for your CPT codes for telehealth, well, that is not the topic we're covering. So just want to make sure that that we're all on the same page here. We're going to focus on the patient side of the equation for today's presentation. And before we jump too far into it, I want to also just say thank you for being a part of the healthcare system. Thank you for all the work that you're doing during the pandemic and the difficult times that are facing our nation and the world right now. We appreciate everything that we do, and we look forward to finding ways to help your business thrive through that. So during our presentation today, we will talk through the following 4 items. We will go through the patient billing and payment process, how you would go about billing patients, not only for the co-pays, but for any outstanding balances that they may have with your practice. We'll talk a little bit about how BillFlash has some tools that will allow you to make that easier for patients, but not only make it easier, we have some pretty cool tools that will allow you to give your patients flexible options so that they can, so that you can be responsive to their financial and economic needs, as there's a lot of people who are dealing with economic uncertainty right now, and at the same time respect the needs of your practice to remain financially viable. We're going to talk about how to send patients electronic notifications for the pre-visit charges. So prior to launching a telehealth visit, what would you do in order to send the patient the ability to pay you, given that BillFlash historically has received payments off of statements? And prior to a visit, you might not have a statement for that patient. You need to, and we want to share with you how we can help you collect that revenue before the visit starts. We're also going to talk through other billing and payment considerations that you should have with telehealth visits. I talked a little bit about that already. And last but not least, we'll have Grace from our account management team here at NextTrust take you through and show you exactly how this works within BillFlash and how it can improve the telehealth patient billing and payment process for you. We have Grace, James, and Richard all from NextTrust on the phone with us. And if you have any questions, feel free to submit those through the question and answer or the chat process within the GoToMeeting webinar interface. And at the end of our presentation, we'll answer any questions that you might have. So we're going to start off with a couple of polls. There's 2 polls here. It's broken out into 2 polls because GoToMeeting doesn't let me combine them into one. And I'm going to explain to you the difference between the 2 polls. We'd like to have an understanding for what types of telehealth systems you are using within your practice, if you are using one today. The first poll that we're going to launch is for those of you who are contracting with a system that is specifically designed for telehealth. So if it's something like UpDocs or, UpDocs is the easiest one that comes to mind, Dr. First, any of them that are on the list there, the poll is open. And this is for those of you who are contracting with a system designed for that. Our next poll is going to include things like Skype, FaceTime, the consumer-driven video conferencing systems that you might be utilizing while the HHS has suspended some of the HIPAA enforcement rules during the pandemic. So additionally, if you are voting other, as it seems 85% of you are voting other right now, with only 26% having voted, if your answer is other, we would greatly appreciate it if you could, within the chat interface for GoToWebinar, please let us know what the name is of the system that you are using. If you do that, that will help us better serve you from a business perspective and help us provide more beneficial, not only content for webinars like this, but potentially integration points with those systems. So please submit if you have, if you're using other, like 90% of you are, send us a chat that lets us know exactly which system you're using if you're willing to do that. So I think that we're at about 51% voted. It's been pretty stagnant there at 51 for a few seconds, James. If we could close that poll and launch the second poll, which is for those of you who have decided to use some of the systems like Skype or FaceTime during the pandemic, and you haven't decided to pull the trigger on a particular telehealth vendor system. So that poll is now open. The options that are on there are Doxy, Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, and other. Similar to the previous poll, I would ask you that if your answer is other, if you're utilizing some other free type system that you would use in non-healthcare circumstances, please let us know through the chat interface which system it is that you're using to provide those services to your patient. It's between the first vote and the second vote, and unless there's people who are voting twice, we're up to 42% that have voted on the second poll. 51% of you voted on the first poll, which is almost 100% of you voting across both polls. So I think that that's some really interesting information. There's a lot of you using Doxy, a fair amount using Zoom, some on FaceTime, and a good number that are using other. I think we can go ahead and close the poll on that one, James. It's really interesting how the breakdown works between those of you who are on the call. About half of you are using systems designed for telehealth, and about half of you are using systems that might not be designed for that purpose. So we need to think through how we make sure that we're compensated for those visits in both circumstances. And we'll talk through some of the processes that you can utilize to do that. Let me get back here and try to advance the slides. It's really interesting. There's a number of articles out there that are talking about the telemedicine boom that's been triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. And there's a lot of discussion out there about how healthcare might change as a result of it. Those of you who are old enough to remember September 11th and what happened there, that it drastically changed the travel industry in ways that we still see today. There have been some fairly significant permanent changes around the process of flying that came as a result of that. And it's increasingly apparent that healthcare is going to experience similar changes as a result of this pandemic. And telemedicine is a huge part of that. There's going to be a number of visits that I believe that we're going to see that used to be done strictly in office, and they may be done strictly via telemedicine at this point to try to minimize the cross-contamination, cross-infection, however you want to describe it, lower the number of touches that people have with potentially sick other people. So let's move on to our next poll question. James, we've got another one that is there based on what we've seen. What do you expect your telehealth usage to be after the pandemic has ended? If we could launch that poll and get it up and going, we'll give you some of the options that are there. But we're interested to see, are you planning on using Doxy or Zoom or FaceTime, for example, strictly for the period where the stay-at-home orders are in place, or are you the poll isn't opening, so sorry, I'm a little bit distracted by that.
Yeah, message for the audience. This poll. Please take a moment to type your response in the comments box. What we're looking for is an answer to what do you expect your usage to be after the pandemic has ended? Is it going to increase? Is it going to to decrease, stay the same? What are your expectations after the pandemic? Please share your thoughts in the comments boxes, and we can discuss those. Thank you.
Thank you for saving me on that, James. I was sitting there waiting for the poll to open, and we would have been waiting for a while. Appreciate your help on that. So we're not, since it's not a poll that's open, we'll move on from this slide. But as we continue with the presentation, type in your answers. Do you expect to continue using telehealth? Do you expect to discontinue? Do you think that there's going to be a mixture of the two? How do you see it impacting your office on a go-forward basis? Again, enter that into the chat interface of GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar. All right. So let's talk through what the patient billing and payment process would look like utilizing BillFlash for a telehealth visit. And there's a number of things here that we want you to think through. Prior to any telehealth visit, most of you would need to collect the copay. What we're trying to do here is recreate the process that existed in your waiting rooms when the patients were being seen in office. As you can imagine, patients come in, and as you know, not just imagine, as you experience, the patients will come in, you'll have the intake process where they verify their information that's there. And in most circumstances, practices are collecting not only the copay for that existing visit, but any outstanding balance or portion of an outstanding balance that the patient might have from previous visits or from other family members' visits. It's really important in order for your practice to remain financially viable throughout the stay-at-home orders and social distancing that's there. If most of your patient payments that were coming in were done before the visit was started in the practice, you need to mimic that with your telehealth visits as well. Otherwise, you're going to have a harder time collecting that revenue. The time where the patient is most motivated to make any payment that they are able to make is right before you're going to be rendering them service. If you wait until after that service is delivered, then those patients are going to pay the minimum that you ask them for, and then they're going to wait. And in a lot of circumstances, the next time they come into your practice is the next time they're going to pay for the previous visit. If that sounds familiar to you, if that's a process that you recognize, and you move your visits to telehealth visits, if you are only collecting the copay at that point in time, you're not going to be able to recognize as much revenue as you might otherwise see. And BillFlash is going to support that using something known as LinkPay. If you are a BillFlash payment services customer, this is something that you have. We can turn it on for you. Grace is going to show it to you in just a little bit. And really, you just send them a link. You can provide that on your website. You can send them an email that says, go here and pay the required amount. You can call them and give them the URL. It's really a rather simple thing. It allows the patient to then pay you without requiring a statement. It even doesn't require them to have a chart number in your system. So if you're seeing a brand new patient, they can still make a payment to your practice for the required amount using LinkPay. After the patient uses LinkPay to pay you the required amount, they would then join the telehealth session from a separate link. So for those of you who are using any of the different systems that were there, after they make the payment for their visit, they would then go to whichever system it is that you're using, the link that you're providing for them, either on the website in your portal, through a secure email that you send to them, and they'll join that session. After the visit, the results and follow-up of that are completed electronically. You're going to complete your notes, make sure that you're noting things like the duration of the visit, because as you bill for those, there's different amounts that you'll get paid based on how long it is that you've spent seeing the patient electronically. After you then complete the billing process for the insurance companies, you would then utilize the BillFlash platform to send out either paper statements or e-bill notifications for any remaining balances. So if your patients have deductibles, co-insurances, or any other balances for other reasons, you can send those out while respecting social distancing by utilizing the BillFlash platform that you may or may not be familiar with to very easily get those things out without having to go to the post office, go to the office supply store and pick up paper, stamps, all of those things. It can all be done from the comfort of home while your employees are working from remotely potentially as well. When the patient receives their paper statement or e-bill notification, if you're signed up for the BillFlash payment services, that would send them on both the paper statements and the e-bills to myproviderlink.com, which is the patient-facing side of BillFlash, where that patient is going to pay the remaining balance that they have, and it will go directly into your bank account. And if you have an integrated system with BillFlash, which there's a number of you who do, those payments will show up within your practice management or EHR system, where you'll be able to process those without having to manually enter those. So it makes BillFlash, if you follow this process for the patients, makes it very easy for them to not only complete the visit, but make the payment online. So we talked a little bit about LinkPay. How do you send them the charges, the notifications for the charges? LinkPay is easy for both new and existing patients to use. You want to make sure you're collecting those payments prior to the charges being generated, because it means it's prior to the visit. You have the most likelihood that the patient is going to pay at that point in time. If you wait until after, you're lowering the likelihood that a patient who is able to pay actually does so. On myproviderlink.com, your patients are able to make payments very easily. They don't have to have a chart number. They can pay. Even if they do have a chart number, there's not a login that is required. They can create a login, which makes it a lot easier for them. But I've heard from a lot of practices that they don't want to have to deal with patients forgetting their passwords, managing logins. And on myproviderlink.com, even for existing patients, they have an option to pay a statement without requiring a login. It is very simple, and Grace will show you how that works in just a little bit. So some things that you need to consider as you are billing your patients for these telehealth visits. How are you going to charge for your telehealth visit copays? Are you going to send them an email? Are you going to talk to them on the phone and send them to your website? All of these different things, you could send them texts, you could send them messages through secure applications, through your portal, any number of ways that you can point them to a very simple URL to collect that copay. But as you're collecting the copay, as we've discussed, how are you going to collect the outstanding balances from prior visits? Are you going to look at things like offering your patients payment plans to try to make it more likely that they pay something? There's a lot of patients out there with financial uncertainty right now, and if they receive a invoice or a statement for $500, they may decide, you know what, I'm just not interested in paying that. I don't have it right now. I'm dealing with financial consequences from the stay-at-home orders. A payment plan breaks that $500 up to manageable pieces. And it's far better for your practice to receive a series of $50 payments than billing for a $500 statement and receiving nothing because the patient believes that they're not able to pay. Additionally, there's a number of patients out there who pay most of their bills using an auto pay type feature. They set up their accounts so that their utility bills are paid automatically, their mortgages are paid automatically, rents automatically withdrawn. Healthcare has been rather slow in implementing that type of a process, and BillFlash has an extremely easy to use feature where your patients, if they agree to it, you would need to come to that agreement, have them sign it as part of their financial agreement with your practice. But if they do that, then as soon as the statement goes out, it's not waiting for them to pay it. We automatically charge it with a stored payment method that will allow you to either charge their credit card or directly debit or from a bank account using the bank account's information. So it's very, very simple for them to set up an automatic payment. And there's a number of patients who like to pay their bills that way. It doesn't mean that everybody will, but if you could get 20, 30, 40% of your patients to sign up for auto pay, then that would significantly reduce the collection burden on your staff in going after statements that are not paid, because they would automatically be paid and nobody would have to think about it. And in order to facilitate both of those prior to bullet points, stored payment methods are there. BillFlash allows you to store a tokenized link between you and the patient, where it's essentially converting a credit card number into a long different number that is only possible to use between you and your patient. If any other merchant were to try to use that token, it would be declined. So it's a very secure way for you to store a payment method on file for patients and allow them to not only easily pay you the next time they get a statement, but sign up for either of the previous two options. If you think through how you're going to bill your patients for these telehealth visits, and you do so at the point in the process where they're most likely to pay, utilizing BillFlash to do so is going to help you get paid more and faster. And in addition to that, it's going to save your staff time. So let's talk through the different features of BillFlash and how they can improve the telehealth patient billing and payment process. And really what I have here, I want you to understand, if you use the terminology that is in parentheses on each of the 5 blue lines, those are specific features of BillFlash that you can use to complete each of these different processes. So we've talked a lot about LinkPay up until this point. So anything that you want to collect prior to the visit being completed, you would utilize LinkPay in order to do that. It allows you to email or in some other way communicate a charge to patients and then send them to a link to pay online prior to the visit. After the visit is done, we have a feature known as eBills, which allows you to send a same-day statement notification to patients via electronic delivery method. That's a whole lot of words, sounds like corporate speak in some ways, but essentially what you're saying is that you're going to email a patient a link that says you have a statement that's available. Click this link to go and view it, where they'll be taken through a secure process that is completely HIPAA compliant and be presented with their statement the day that you send it up to BillFlash. We've talked about payment plans. PlanPay is the name of the feature at BillFlash. If you are a payment services customer, it will allow you to set up automated recurring billing and payments starting on the date that you select full PCI compliance. AutoPay, we've talked about, allows you to set up the automatic payments when the statement is sent to the patient. It's also PCI compliant. And StorePay, we talked about that one as well. So if you really want to succeed as you bill your patients through the pandemic, you need to automate the patient billing and payment process. The percentage of each claim that is the patient's responsibility is increasing. Patient billing is increasing is maybe not as descriptive as it could be here, but what we're saying there is that if you went back 20 years, patients had co-pays, co-insurances that represented anywhere from 10 to 20% of each claim. Now they represent more than 50%. The last number that I saw is about 65% of each claim is the patient's responsibility on average. So you need to make sure that you're billing them. The patient payments are increasing. You need to automate what can be automated. You also need to use the features like PlanPay, for example, to minimize the economic impact on your patients. You also need to recognize that while a number of patients might have been laid off, had their hours cut, be furloughed, there's a number of patients out there who are continuing to work. They have HSAs, they have SSAs, they have funds that are set aside for healthcare, or they're continuing to work and generate income. You need to bill patients so that those who are able to pay do so. That is critical for your practice to continue functioning. But in addition to not only being willing to do that, if you automate what can be automated, it will allow your practice to function more efficiently as your workers are isolated in their homes and working from home. So at this point, I am going to turn the time over to someone who is far smarter than I am, and she'll be able to answer other questions that you might have. But she's got a long history here at BillFlash. Grace Totten is our BillFlash account manager, and she's going to take you through a demo of all the features that we've talked about today. Grace, I'm going to make you the presenter.
Yep.
Let me see if I can do that quickly. There you go.
Perfect. All righty. Hello, everyone. So I hope everyone can see my screen just fine. Tony, does it look good? Can you see it? Are we good?
It looks great. We're good. Okay,
perfect. So I'm going to show everyone on a test account how our LinkPay works. If you are interested in getting LinkPay set up for your account and you already have payment services with BillFlash, what we'll ask you to do is just email our support team. So you can email support@billflash.com and we'll get it set up. It has to be set up on our back end, but let me show you how it works. I'm just in my test account. Our LinkPay actually works off of our MyProviderLink website. So what it is myproviderlink.com/whatever you want it to be. So this is just my test account. So I've done /Happy Valley Med. A lot of practices, you know, they'll like to do the provider's name or the full name of the practice. Depending on how long or short it is, we can set it up however you'd like. So just let us know what you'd like it to be and we can get it set up. So this is the link you're going to provide to your patients so they can make payments prior to visits, after visits. Like Tony was saying, it's helpful to do prior to a visit. So a lot of the practices that I'm working with right now that want to use LinkPay are like maybe they're utilizing a text service where they text the patient and they include this link and they say, make your copay of $35 prior to the televisit. Whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, this is the link you're going to provide to your patients for them to make payments. When the patient visits the link, this is what they're going to see. So it's telling them, let's make the payment to, and then your practice. So what the patient will do is they'll fill all of this information in and process the payment. So let's just do that really quick. They can do a phone number. It is a mandatory field, so let's just put that in. The account number is an optional field, so they're not needing their account number in order to process the payment. So they can leave that blank. A lot of patients don't know what their account number is. Then you put the amount in here. So let's say they're paying $25. They can also put a little note in here. So if they want to put a note why they're making the payment, they can say like copay for visit on 5/1 or whatever they want to do. Or if they're paying more than that, they can say copay plus outstanding balance. Then they can select card or e-check, and then you just go ahead and put their card information in. So this is all not real data, obviously. Do this really quick so everyone can see the receipt page. Oops. So it's really easy for patients to use this link, and then they just actually submit their payment. Oh, great. I hate these questions. It's like a test. Okay, and then we go ahead and hit submit. So before the payment's submitted, it is actually confirming. This is a new feature for us, and it is helpful for patients because sometimes they go a little bit quick and they might have miskeyed their payment amount. So it's confirming again before the payment submits. So we found it to be really helpful. They submit the payment processes, and the next screen you see is this confirmation page. So it automatically emailed them a payment confirmation to their email that they put in here. They can print this for their records if they like, but it has all the information in there. As soon as that payment is made by the patient, the payment is visible on your payment report in BillFlash. So let's switch back to BillFlash. If you just go into under Run Reports, Standard Reports, where your normal payment transaction report is listed, you can run a report and see that payment in real time. So that payment's in here. It shows the name that I put in there. It's not linked because this isn't a payment that they made through a statement. So it says not linked here. It does list it as a source as LinkPay. Has a confirmation ID, the amount. It has all the information like a normal payment you're used to seeing in there would. For our users that have integrated software that has payment integration, these payments do not come in through the payment integration. So this is important for you to look at your report and post those payments manually into your practice management software. If you don't have an integrated software, it's the same as you normally would. But everything appears right away for you. The payment comes into your bank account 2 business days after the payment's made in the system, just like any other payment. So everything is very fast. The reporting is right there. It's really helpful for you to see. You can confirm like real time if the patient, you know, confirms via text, via email, phone call that says, I made the payment. You can actually go in and see it right away. So you'll know whether, yes, it went through. I don't see it on here. Do you want to recheck it? So it's really helpful, very quick. We found that a lot of our accounts are really happy with this service. It's worked really well. But again, if you guys want to use it and you already have our payment processing service, just email support@billflash.com. Just let them know that you want the LinkPay. We can get it turned on for you. If you don't have payment processing with us, obviously we'd love to get you enrolled. It's very easy to use. But Tony, that's really everything that I need to show them for LinkPay. So if you have any final thoughts or anything, I can kick it back to you. Do you want me to make you presenter again?
Could you take a second, Grace, and show them how to set up on BillFlash the auto pay, PlanPay, because I really think that those are some of the best features that we could show you during these times. Because for those patients who are able to pay,
for sure,
you want to make it really easy. And for those that might have a hard time, the PlanPay helps you accommodate that. So if you could just walk them through that real quick, then we can take it over and go to questions.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone was on our last webinar, but we did go over a little bit of the PlanPay in that. So if anyone has seen this, I apologize. But if you do have payment services with us and you're not seeing the option for PlanPay in your account, same thing, please email our support team at support@billflash.com. and we can get that turned on for you. If you have payment processing with us, these services are no additional fee. You already get them. They're just a convenience for you and your patients. So what we call this is our PlanPay service. So how to add these is you come into the My Payers tab in your BillFlash account, and this is a full list of all the patients that you've either sent a statement to or processed a payment for. So what you come in here and you can search, we can search by the account number or the name and pull up the specific patient we want to add the PlanPay for. I think that's a better option than trying to like page through each one and find the specific patient. If you come in here and you have a patient you need to add a PlanPay for and you're not finding them in your list, we do also have an option to add them. So you can click Add Single Payer. You want to put their account number, that's their account number in your practice management software. So you want it to coincide with that same account number, their name. The method field is just if you're sending them a statement in the future, how would they like to receive that statement? And then the email address is actually a mandatory field for our PlanPay service. So we'll get into that as well. So once they're added and in here, you can go over and click Add under PlanPay. And it pulls you into what adding a PlanPay looks like. So we give you a space in here for agreement notes. So you can go ahead and use this if you like. It is an optional field. So it's basically the scenario, why you're setting up the PlanPay, when you spoke to the patient about it. It's just for your reference. If you'd like to add a little note there, you can. Below that is our monthly payment amount. So this is how much we're going to automatically take from their checking account or their credit card on a monthly basis. So let's say it's $50. We put that in there. Then number of payments. So this is how many months it's going to run for. So say this is like a full year, we'll do 12 months in there. Then you can actually select the payment date beginning. So if you click in here, it pulls up a calendar. Since we are on the last day of the month, it's not going to let you select that. So you'd actually have to go into May and select the day you'd like it to process. Most patients will have a specific day in mind, and it's typically, you know, right after they get paid, when other bills aren't due. You know, everyone has that. I know I have everything set up staggered throughout my month. So maybe the patient says the 5th of the month. You put that in there.
Grace,
we do have to have an email address
for
on
just
file.
1 second?
Yeah.
Because on the
sure.
month, the date that you have up there, I wanted to point out that Grace selected next week, May 5th, but this is where you can also set up plans similar to what the mortgage companies or car companies are doing for people who might be having financial hardships right now. And if you wanted to allow someone to start their payments in August, for example, you could skip ahead to August and set up the first payments to occur on August 5th or August 1st. and then they would start then and happen for the duration of the period that you specify up above that. So if you think through this, you can set it up for people now, or if you've got someone who's running into a little bit of economic hard times and you want to be flexible with them, you could ask them to set that up with a starting date far later than that, and whatever you agree to with them, and make it so that it's easy and automatic for that payment to occur starting at that date in the future that you select. It's far better that we figure out ways to help these patients, make it easy for them to pay us. Getting paid in August is better than getting paid nothing at all. So I just wanted to point that out, that that's an option that's there for you right now that might be applicable as people are dealing with the economic impact.
For sure. Yeah,
Sorry.
no, Tony makes a good point. You can definitely go into the future. Totally fine. And you can select any date you'd like it to start. So it is really nice that you can have that flexibility with your patients. And I do feel like it makes them feel a little bit like you have compassion towards the situation when you say, yeah, I have the ability to, let's set it out till, end of July, and maybe we'll check in before it's supposed to run if that's still a good time. So I put the email address in there. The email address is the patient's email. It's used for receipting purposes. So when the payment does actually run through, we'll send the patient an emailed confirmation saying that their payment plan did get set up, did run for that month. But it also is for authorization purposes too. So we'll go into that after I put it in. So you can do a card or checking account. I'm just going to quickly key in a card. In there. And then we hit submit. So now it's adding our PlanPay, but there is one final step that we have to do after we've added a PlanPay. So let me go back into my, so we're back in here and it still says pending for our PlanPay. So what we want to do is we want to authorize it. So if we click over here where it says authorize, there's a few different ways we authorize a PlanPay. So this is just essentially to cover you guys. So if you set up a payment plan for a patient, we want to make sure we have it authorized by the patient in case they come back and say, hey, I never said you could do this. There's two different ways we can do that. The first one's the email. So we can select to email them an authorization where they follow a link in the email and they authorize the PlanPay. So this is what the email will look like. It'll say hello, their patient name. It has all of your office information at the top. And they're just clicking this link, I agree, activate PlanPay. Once you've done that, we'll have that on file. So if it ever comes back to you and their patient's like, I never authorized this, if they've clicked, I agree, activate PlanPay, we can help you dispute that if it ever comes to that. Hopefully it would never come to that. Or you can do a paper authorization. Some offices have their own methods of authorizing a payment plan for a patient. Maybe it's in like an intake form that you currently do, or you offer on some sort of patient portal you have available. Maybe you feel like you've already received all the authorization you need. You have a payment plan set up in a different system. Whatever it may be, you can do the paper authorization. So you can always print an authorization for them to sign. Doesn't really make sense in today's world because a lot of these visits are televisits. But if you've already received an authorization for them in another method, you can click I've received authorization and we can activate PlanPay. So it's like having to send the email. If you're comfortable with that, you can go ahead and do it. Again, this is just to cover you guys. We don't want you to be in a situation where patients are coming back to you and saying, hey, I didn't authorize that. Why did you have that payment come out of my account? So once that's set up, it'll run until it's completed or canceled out. If for some reason it doesn't get sent, it doesn't go through 1 month, we email the patient, we say your payment didn't go through, and we'll also email the office. So we'll email the office and say, this payment for this patient didn't go through this month. So you have the option to reach out to the patient and discuss it with them. So that's how that works. The patient is notified. So if you're ever wondering, hey, does the patient know their payment didn't go through? They do get that notification as well. So the payment plans will run just like any other payment would. It shows on your payment report in BillFlash as a PlanPay. If you have an integrated software, that payment will go into your integrated software just like any online payment would. So you don't need to worry about that. The integration still works there. It's just listed as PlanPay on your BillFlash report just to indicate it's a different kind of payment. We do have the option to store cards on file, which we call stored pay. And then our auto pay is a little bit different. So let me look at stored pay first. What we do is we click add under stored pay. So stored pay is just storing a card on file. It doesn't run a payment at all. It's just storing that card so you can use it in the future. So it looks similar to PlanPay. We have a note field where you can add why you're storing a card on file. You can set a maximum payment amount. Some patients aren't comfortable having their card on file if they know you could charge any amount at any time. So you can cap it at a certain amount. And then you select card or checking account and you store it. So similar to our PlanPay, it does make you authorize it. So you can do the email authorization, which we looked at before, or we can do a paper authorization. So if we just come back into My Payers, we can see someone that does have an active stored pay in here. Excuse me. So you can cancel it from here as well. If we click method, you can edit the method. So if they need to change their card on file, you can do that as well. So once a patient has a stored pay activated, when you go to run a payment for them, the system is indicating to you that they have a stored pay on file. So when you pull up their account to run a payment in BillFlash, it'll ask you if you'd like to run it via the stored pay. It's very user-friendly. It'll tell you right there. So you'll know it's really in your face that they have a stored pay. You can still, at that point, bypass the stored pay and run a different type of method. But usually if you're storing a card on file, that's when you're going to use it. Our auto pay is a little bit different. So it's built off of when statements go out. So we store a card in the system and we automatically charge the patient for the amount billed on their statement. So we can cap it at a certain amount. Let's say they put 200 in here. Next time we upload and approve a statement for John Borden, it'll automatically charge him the amount that he owes on that statement up to $200. This is something that some offices really like to use because it's still sending the patient a notification. So the statement the patient receives will say auto pay on it, letting them know that this is already set up for auto pay. They don't need to pay it. It's already been processed. But this is essentially just like a paid invoice that they're receiving. So you do a card or a checking account and set that up. Auto pay is really important. Everyone remembers that this is based on statements being uploaded and approved. So just because you set up an auto pay, nothing will be charged until you upload and approve a statement for that patient account. Once that's done, the system will automatically charge the amount on that statement up to whatever maximum amount they have in there. Our statement file works in the evening, so our auto pays are charged in the evening as well. So if you uploaded and approved a statement file during the day and you ended up like canceling the approval before the statement file sent out for that night, that auto pay wouldn't charge. It's just after that cancellation period cut off, the 6 p.m. Eastern time has happened, that's when the auto pay will automatically run. If anyone has questions on these services or has our pay services and doesn't see the stored pay, PlanPay, auto pay on their account, let us know. We can get them turned on for you. Again, no additional charge. If you don't have our payment services, obviously we'll get you signed up for that as well. But you can email our support team, support@billflash.com. You can ask for me directly. My name is Grace, and I'm happy to help you.
Thank you, Grace. That was awesome.
Tony,
so
yeah.
I will take back the presentation and we can wrap up. While we're doing that, I also just wanted to point out, we're not going to show it today, but if you're using BillFlash Pay services, we also have an interface that if you want to see a demo of it, reach out to us and we can schedule that for you. But it'll allow your staff who might be working from home to take a phone payment and key that in as they are talking to a patient who might call in. So if your billing staff is working from home and you're routing the phone calls from patients regarding financial matters to them, and the patient wants to pay, you can utilize BillFlash to collect that payment. And that one actually will integrate back into your system through the integration that BillFlash has with the various practice management systems. So that's the last way that I would talk about today, that you can use BillFlash Pay services to help make it more likely and easy for your patients to pay as they are isolating themselves at home. So, in summary, if we simplify the patient billing and payment process, we send our patients electronic notifications for our charges and pre-visit payments. We think about how we're going to bill them after the telehealth visit is completed, and then utilize the BillFlash processes that are available to make it easy for those patients to pay and improve the billing and payment process for them. Your practice is going to have a higher likelihood that those patients are going to pay, which will help your business support not only providing the care to those patients, but the needs that you and your employees' families have financially. We need to try to keep as much of that moving as possible during these times, and we hope that you can see how BillFlash will allow you to do that. With that said, I think, James, do we have any questions that have come through that we want to answer?
Yeah. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Grace. We apologize for going a little bit longer than anticipated, and thank you for those that have participated. We can go over a few of these questions, and we've received a number of questions that we'll follow up individually and respond to, specifically about questions relating to individual billing systems. But let me start with a few questions relating to the webinar. There was a question about whether there was a fee to activate LinkPay. And we've answered that question, but if you want to take just a second to reiterate that answer, Tony?
Yeah, so yes, I will take a second to answer it. That was not yes, there is a fee to activate it. I want to make sure that we're clear, though. If you are a BillFlash Pay Services customer, there is no additional fee to activate LinkPay. If you are not a BillFlash Pay Services customer, you must become one in order to activate LinkPay. So if you fall into that category, you can reach out through your reseller, through your vendor, directly through BillFlash, and we can get you signed up for that. It's not a very long process to do. In most circumstances with the pay services at Grace, I'm going to ask you to keep me honest on this, but when we're signing up a new pay services account, it takes around 48 hours, business hours, or 2 business days to get somebody from sign up to being able to do those charges. Am I about right on that timetable, Grace?
I would say you might want to give us an extra day on that. Our merchant processing partner has obviously been really busy lately for all this COVID stuff. So I would say give us another day. 72 hours is typical. But yeah, obviously that it's pretty quick turnaround time.
So yeah, if you signed up today, by early next week, we could have you going on it.
Another question comes from Sam. Sam says, I do not want my staff working remotely to become aware of the card information of patients. Do you have a solution for this?
Oh, it really depends. Yeah, so you're not wanting anybody to be able to see the credit card information for the patients. And there's a couple of ways that you can manage that. BillFlash itself, when it presents the cards back to you, it's not showing the entire card. It'll give you the last 4 digits and the first couple numbers so that you can see the type of card and the last 4 digits. It really depends on the process that you have for somebody who is receiving a phone call or interacting with a patient. You would want to make sure that wherever somebody is going to be providing a credit card, they're interacting with somebody who is authorized to see that and have access to it and is following all PCI compliance rules. But for anybody who is not directly interacting and asking a patient for a credit card, they're not going to have access to see that information and do anything with it. So it is completely secure, and the dependency there is on how you manage the flow of information from the patients to your practice. If the patient is making a phone call payment through a live person, that live person has to be authorized, and you need to route them that way appropriately. As long as you are doing that, nobody is going to have access to see anybody's credit card information that they're not authorized to see.
Thank you. We took some time already to answer this question, I believe, but do you offer regular merchant processing in addition to this? And was there anything else you wanted to say regarding this question that we haven't covered already?
I don't think that we've talked at length about that. I think that's a great question for those of you who are considering that. When you sign up for BillFlash Payment Services, you're not only signing up for these online payment portals. We also will provide you, based on the needs of your practice and for the appropriate fee for the hardware, we have swipers that you can install in your practice that will integrate with all of the services and features that you've seen today, but also allow you to take it right there in office with just like you would any other credit card when everything opens up. So we have full merchant services, and we're not strictly an online payment vendor. When you sign up for BillFlash, you have the ability to do both.
Hey Tony, let me expand on that if I may. Everybody, hi, this is Richard Davis. I'm the Vice President of Customer Success and Business Development here, but my background is in payments, and I joined NextTrust BillFlash about a year ago. And what I just want to add to what Tony's already alluded to is that the reason you might want to really consider moving or setting up your merchant processing with us, besides the fact that it centralizes all of your contracts and need for customer support and reporting and everything, is that we're learning that with use cases we do and data that we discover, that patients are more likely to pay their fees to you if they can have access to the statement. So besides being able to send a statement, when you can give the patients an understanding of why they owe what they owe you, and then implement all these tools and features that Grace and Tony have talked about today, you are more likely to get paid. In fact, the likelihood is about 60% within the first 30 days. So.
Thanks, Richard and Tony. We have a number of other questions. We would be glad to follow up individually on these and provide you with some answers specific to like I said, your billing application, your practice type, and so forth. So any other questions, feel free to submit those as well, and then we'll make sure we follow up with you. Go ahead, Tony.
Tony might be on mute, so everybody just want to thank you for spending time with us today. And just to reiterate Tony's comments, we really appreciate you, and we're mindful of today's uncertain times. We're very grateful for what you do, and hope that we can be part of what you guys do on a daily basis. But just know we're mindful of you, and we're thankful for you, and wish you all the best. Thanks for spending time with us.